Thank you, gentlemen. So let's start with the very overarching subject line. What is the future of retail marketing? Let me start with you, Martin.
Well, that's a loaded question. I think the future is really about personalization as a topic. It's about getting to know your customers so intimately and being able to respond to them in real time and being able to use the information that you know about your customers in real time. And not only at the very last minute when you're actually selling your products to your customers, whether that's online or in store, but actually that starts at the very, very early stages. That starts even with your merchandise planning, because this is where you actually start to make the connections between the physical products that you have and your customers, and you need to start linking those two together, which is traditionally not something we've done in retail.
Right. What has been your experience in the region, particularly given that you're the man who takes SAP's products to the market, to the retailers here? Are they up for change? Are they slow to change?
But I think the region in itself is something that is initially been a region that has been catching up quite a bit when it comes to technology and adoption of technology. Having said that, we in this region have the same customer and the same customer behaviors and profiles and trends that we see in other places of the world. So yes, in this region as well, we see a lot of retailers that are picking up on new initiatives. We've recently worked with one of the largest luxury retailers in this country, luxury fashion retailers, to work with them on adopting new loyalty strategies with the idea of at some point being able to use some of our technologies that we can deliver for them to really help with the personalization efforts, et cetera, et cetera.
So to identify and retain consumers. Alex, let's get your let's say big picture or vantage point of view. You're a strategy consultant for many brands. Tell us, what are you seeing at this moment? What trends are you picking up on the way retail marketing is shaping here?
Sure. I think one of the things that retail marketing also picks up on is a general change in the overall environment. In this region, you didn't have to be here too long ago, where it was very much supply-led. And I think that transition towards demand-led marketing, but I think it comes back to this whole experience aspect. It's no longer just good enough to have a product in the store and having somebody there to, basically get the till to basically scan through what you've bought and ask you how much to pay. But I think it's now, how do you engage with that person in a way that keeps bringing them back? Mm-hmm. The store becomes a theatre as opposed to just a warehouse, and I think the really good retailers and they incorporate the technology in there. They've got really good insight in terms of what their customers want. Mm-hmm. They have an experience that brings people back over and over again, and then you've got all the other aspects of technology that are starting to come in place. And we've just seen from Quicksilver, one of the points of pain for a customer is when they're waiting in the queue to pay. Yeah. So if you look at Apple stores, your salesman comes up to you, you order what you want, you pay with your phone, and off you go. And I think that's where we're going. So, in a nutshell, it's heavy demand driving. It's the whole aspect of how do you create an experience. That experience needs to be translated for that in the store, and then how do you remove all the points of pain for a customer in a retail environment. So
briefly, what tools would you pick then? Are the critical ones going forward in retail marketing?
Well, I think the days, when you ask for the tools, I think this is a very good question. Number one, I think when you come back to marketing, I think today we can learn a lot from what our customers want, not just by asking them, because I'm one of these people that is still a little bit cynical about the quality of research in this region. I'm not sure it's done properly. The results are almost predictable. Mm-hmm. But we know who our customers are. We collect immense amount of data from them when they join loyalty programs. We can track them through social media. So we've got an ability to be able to understand what they really want. We have an ability to read about how they really feel about us. And I think we've got the ability, if we've got very good marketeers in that retailer, to be able to tailor-make the marketing program for that type of customer.
Okay. Tej, you've been talking a lot about loyalty and consumer stickiness, impulsive buying. Tell us what has been going on in that space for you guys, and more importantly, what kind of returns are we talking about? Are these really game-changing returns with that kind of brand loyalty?
True. Now, having said that, loyalty as such is something that has become so important in terms of how we portray our brand, in terms of how we deal with our customers as such, because it's a whole experience. And that experience starts from the first time they step into the store, all the way from the time when you say hello or you recognize somebody, hi Alex, welcome back to the store. Now, this gives you that edge over the others who operate within the same industry or within the same scheme, whereby the customer feels, I feel special. Now, this is about the whole, all the way from the time he enters the store, all the way till he makes a payment, checks out, and then he goes away. It doesn't end over there, because after that, you have the whole after sales, and you have the whole post-sales follow-up, you have retention of customers, and all that kind of sorts. But having said that, what we've seen is, it's quite interesting to notice that over a period of time, when you try and look at your numbers, when you try and look at like what Quicksilver had mentioned about prepaid cards and about loyalty cards, the whole shift in numbers is very surprising, because you see a very elite or you see a very niche 20% of your clients generating close to 75–80% of your regular revenues, which is, when you look at it on a whole scale perspective, you wouldn't think it's real. You wouldn't believe it. But when you see the data in front of you and when you try and analyze this data, you see that it's these regular 20% that always keep generating this 80% of revenue. And over a period of time, we've seen that it's more profitable to retain our customers than trying to attract more new ones. Yes, it's essential as it is, but it is more profitable. If I were to spend, let's say, 5% of my total budgets on trying to attract new customers, I would probably spend 2% in retaining old ones, which would roughly translate into another 60–70% in sales. So it's a whole process on why they feel loyal to you. But then there's something else that we've noticed, and that's with the shoppers. I mean, it's very strange, but as lovely as they are, they're real buggers. And I'll tell you why. They love you as long as you don't have a sale. As long as you don't have a sale. So it's more like a condition. I love you, but. So what happens is, the moment there's a sale happening in another store, they say, you know what? I'm done with you guys. I'm going there. I'm going to go for a promotion. Impulse buying. 80% of purchasing that was done on impulse buying were not planned. It was unplanned purchases. And usually 67% of that happened in store. Yeah. You see something that's attached with an offer, buy two, get one free, or you buy a box of cereals, like you were saying earlier, you buy a box of cereals, I get Crispies with it, or I pick up a card, I get another card.
Consumers all over the world are price sensitive, I mean, at some level or the other. That would be
as much as you would put it, yes. But then when you look at why a customer is loyal to a brand, what really would surprise you, what stands at number one is quality. 88% of the customers would say that I would prefer to go to a brand because they give me better quality.
Sure.
Number two stands at customer service. Number three is where pricing comes in. 50% of the customers said price is not really a deciding factor as long as I get the edge and I'm treated well. So then it differs from place to place, but all around the region, what you can see is they do pay a premium for quality and for that experience that they receive.
Okay. Zafar, tell us, where does social media fit into all of this change that retail is undergoing? And is social media bigger for brand loyalty or really causing big clicks and sales?
I just want to start by repeating what you and Shankar repeated. You don't just do social, you have to be social. Today we're seeing a trend in the region, brands are getting it. We have social brands, what we call social brands, and we have social businesses. Social brands are those brands who use social media just for marketing, so they just want to push their message, so they use social media. Social businesses are businesses that are using social media for more than just marketing, so they're using it for insights, for customer care, for marketing, as well as for many other uses. In the region and around the world, the rise of what we call the digital natives today. A digital native is someone who was born in the age of the internet. They were born, they grew up and they can't even remember the first time they used the internet. I can remember clearly the first time I used my mobile phone. So I am a mobile phone immigrant, but I can't actually remember when I used the landline at the house. So I am a landline native. And when we see the difference of how people, natives and immigrants, use the same technology, it's surprising. Let me give you an example. My father is a landline immigrant. So my father can remember exactly when the first phone was installed in their neighborhood. And they all ran to that house to check what is this new invention. So he is definitely a phone immigrant. Till today, whenever he's on a long distance call, I hear him shouting. I never shout when I use the phone. My father, long distance, he has to shout. He never has a conversation for more than 60 seconds. Picks up the phone, says something important, shuts the phone down. He can't even grasp the concept of me talking to my girlfriend for, let's say, 60 minutes or 2 hours. So we see here a very clear difference in the way digital natives or a technology native uses the technology from a technology immigrant. And with today's generation, the 18 to 30 years old, these are digital natives. They use this technology in a totally different way than us. Most probably most of the people here remember the first time they used the internet. So they use it in a totally different way. We had a survey in the Middle East, a sample of 2,000 people. We asked them, why do you use the internet? Immigrants, they use the internet to check their email. They use the internet to follow the news. It's all coming out of the screen to them. The natives, they actually use the internet. The number one is to share their opinion. And the power of the review comes in here. I don't understand those people who actually sit down and write reviews. I'm not one of them. But when you go to the digital natives, it's just business as usual. This is what they were born getting used to doing. So it's not something, it's not something special for them. Online shopping is not something new. Facebook is not something new for them. This is the way things were when they were born. So the way they use these technologies like social media, reviews, etc., is totally different from our perspective.
Right. Okay, Shankar, some of these things eventually play into the form and shape in which retailers say, this is how I will take my community forward, this is how I'll take this marketing strategy forward, and that may eventually translate into a prepaid or a loyalty card. Now, you already ran us through the presentation, but basis what you're hearing from everyone here, what do you see as the size and scale of opportunity in the region for the same?
Well, I'll take that question in two parts, but suffice it to say that the prepaid industry has something for everyone. Everyone sitting here in this room, everyone sitting here on this panel. I mean, it applies to our industries. Let me put it this way. If I want to give you, let's say, a golfing experience in some place, I could buy you a gift card and give it to you for your birthday, perhaps, since she's a golfer. Let's say with you, I work with you already. I mean, as my company works with you because we have done some integration with SAP to look after certain customers' specific needs, which is MIS and, insights and stuff like that. With you, I can learn a lot from you, I'm sure. And I'm sure that, you would like to, engage with us, let's say, because we bring you a certain expertise about loyalty, consumer behavior, etc. from India, in that sense. With you, of course, in your industry, I can, we can actually be of service. And in social, which is very, very important, it's like a, it's a meld. This whole panel is a meld of different arenas. And we have relevance everywhere. Like, you put it beautifully in the earlier part of the discussion. I mean, when we were sitting in the speakers lounge, in which I parroted a little later, it's about being social. It's no longer about do social. I mean, we've forgotten the very fundamental fact that we are human beings.
Right.
We need to interact. We need to be social. Now, when you take this into perspective, gifting, can you think of anything more social than gifting? In reality, you gift because you like people. And that indirectly or directly ties right back into the business that I represent, which is prepaid for retail.
Okay, so I think all of you have put across some interesting thoughts, but I want to drive that entire piece to how does that change the revenue story for a company? And eventually, if all of your efforts at various levels have to go drive that for your clients, then that's what the client wants to see. Yes, I want goodwill, but eventually I want to, show me the money. So, Alex, let me come to something that you were talking about, that the consumer is today the king once again, and everybody is driving towards how that consumer is defining what he or she wants. From that piece itself, how is everything in terms of traditional marketing changing? As a strategist of 25 years, I'm sure you're turning a lot of those old ideas on their head and saying, these things need to now go into the bin.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the customer is king, and I think, again, early on, when the first question you asked me, I said about the transition from a supply-led economy to a demand-led economy. Automatically, that puts the person with the money in the wallet in charge. And I think the customer for years and years relied on traditional marketing, and traditional marketing is very much advertiser-led, and its master narrative is done by the advertiser, the creative is done by the advertiser, the entire, and I'm an advertising guy, but I would say the propaganda is from the advertiser. Today we talk about the review panels, we talk about social media, and no longer is social media just somewhere where I think you talk about the native and the immigrant, but very quickly today I'm a dinosaur when it comes to the social media, but I keep trying to, learn as much as I can. But today, whenever I want to buy something, the first thing I do, I go check the reviews. So I look at a product, I look at the review, I look at what other people like me are saying. So that puts a lot more power back into the customer. So the traditional marketing, which is very much advertiser-led, today you've got community-led initiatives when it comes to the advertising and the review component. So it does put it opens up the door for choice. It opens up the door for discussion. It opens up the door for feedback, which is live. And it does put the customer back in charge of their own destiny and their choice. Yeah. So I think that transition has been coming for a long time. And I think just the digital and technology advancement has just accelerated it.
Yeah, Martin, I want to ask you two aspects of what was just brought up by Alex. One is, of course, yes, there's the front-facing consumer, and they want everything driven as per the way they want it. And then it's the side of the sales story. Now, SAP comes on both ends. You're improving the consumer experience as well, and at the same time, you're changing or altering the way people have the traditional mindset of how to sell. Tell us what is changing in the world of technology, which is making it as consumer-facing, but the onus also lies on the ones who are selling it.
Yeah. So I mean, first of all, let me first say that I fully agree with what you're saying in terms of the customer centricity and actually being driven from a very much a supply-driven business to a demand-driven business. And you see that this value chain of retail is in essence, your traditional plan, buy, sell, analyze kind of flow. And there is really nothing too customer-centric about that, because historically, if you think about it, it's about, the buyers going out and buying product as cheaply as possible, us shipping it as retailers as smartly as possible, making sure that the trucks are all full, and really making sure that cost aspect is managed well in order to bring up the margins. And then we've got all kinds of smart techniques to sell off our products. And it's really that value chain that is there and is still there. And it's a lot of people always been saying, oh yeah, retail is changing. But what you see, and this is coming to your point about the technology, is that you're actually getting in the last couple of years almost like a perfect wave of technological innovations that are causing a customer to be enabled to be the king. They have mobile, they have social, they have all these opportunities now to really start taking control of that. And that doesn't start at, that is not just about when they actually have the selling moment, but retailers need to start engaging that customer throughout the whole thing. And it's actually kind of reversing that whole chain, because now you're going to have to start analyzing your customer behavior from the very start, and you need to start planning from the very customer-centric elements. So what we've been seeing in our world, in SAP's world as well, is that we've been trying to build what we call the customer activity repository. So that's a central place of data for every single piece of customer interaction. historically, retailers had point of sale data to go on. And now you see all these online channels and you see all these other elements of data coming in. And we're bringing all of that data into a single place, and we're using that as a basis, not only for planning, but also throughout the supply chain. And then when it comes to the actual customer interaction, again, whether that's online or whether that's in store, what we're using that information for, because we have a central place that is running on the fastest in-memory type of technologies that the market has to offer, then you can actually build a personalized messaging in real time with a customer. And that is really bringing a lot of power to customers. So now, when you're in a customer-facing discussion, and that's typical when you have a customer in your store, you can actually start interacting with that customer on certain topics. You can send them promotional advertisement. You can ask him for feedback or her. You can actually send them information about products if you want to do that. So that's where a lot of the power comes in.
Tej, something that Martin just referred to, the kind of transformation that the idea of technology and consumer is going through. My question to you would be, how are marketing mindsets changing in an effort to make this about not products or services, but about experiences? And if at all one has to see a differentiation between brands and their services, then that's really where it should come.
True, I agree. I mean, it depends on what mindset you're looking at. If I were to compile all of these efforts that we've discussed today, all of these points that we've discussed today into just two simple statements, all you need to ask yourself is, marketing, is it an expense, is it a cost center, or is it an investment for future sales? So it depends. The moment you have an answer for that, you've got an answer for all your efforts. It depends on the mindset in which you treat your customers. Alex had mentioned about being social and all this. Yes, it's about providing a platform. The customer has the ultimate choice. He has the wallet, he's got the money, and it's his choice and where he wants to go and what is it that he wants to do. The only way that you could entice a customer to come towards your brand, favor your brand compared to all the other 100 brands in the market, is by educating them, informing them, and giving them a platform to be as vocally or as verbally loud as possible. Interact with your brand socially, digitally, on-site, off-site, e-commerce, and different channels that you have. And the more that they feel, let's say, as long as they feel human with your brand, and as long as they feel that human interaction within your brand in terms of talking to them, in terms of listening to them, collecting feedback, making a change, because it's all about making a change management. And positive changes reinforce positive retention, and it converts into sale. But then again, it's a long-term process. It's not something you see overnight. It takes time, it takes effort, but it will eventually pay off because we believe it's an investment. For sure.
Zafar, something that he's pointing out actually takes me to social media. It's a long process. It's a build-up. It's a reputation story. It's a perception story. Now, of course, there are people who've had success in selling stuff on social media. For some, Facebook contributes nearly 50 to 70% of their business. Are you seeing this with your clients? And importantly, are your clients able to be convinced that social media will give them quick buck or a long-term story?
That's a very good question. For the past 3 years, we found marketing managers and brand managers didn't quite sort of get the difference between social and other paid advertising. I was just telling you at the lounge, if you're trying to sell a camera, you're most likely better off to sell it through Google advertising, AdWords, than through building a community or a Facebook fan page. But if you're trying to build that sort of long-term relationship, build loyalty, serve the customer, and then hope that one day you can convert more customers to pay more or to buy more, that would be a better approach. We did a case study with Nauras Telecom in Oman, a GSM operator, where we connected the Facebook profiles of 20,000 users with their billing system. So we had the email addresses, so we just connected and we sort of tracked. And we found that fans who engaged with the page in the past 30 days had a 40% more spend per user, the ARPU, average revenue per user, 40% more in the prepaid category and 27% more in the postpaid category. We also found out that the higher the number of friends on Facebook, the higher your bill is, your mobile bill is. So that's just an example of how you could connect your CRM systems and your billing systems to social networks and truly figure out the correlation between what's happening on the social web and what's happening in store.
Shankar, it takes me to the point that, you know, the medium constantly is changing. And so I want to just throw this question at you, given that you're in the space of prepaid cards, gift cards. Today it's these, tomorrow it could be some other medium. So how is a company like Quicksilver gearing up for the future? What if, you know, tomorrow, like we had the death of the physical coupon. Fine, now we've got the digital coupons making a comeback, particularly in emerging markets. I think there is always that life cycle. It could well be the truth for gift cards as well. So how does a company like yours innovate and convince your clients that, you know, this is the way forward because this builds up to the next phase?
Thank you for asking that, because we believe we are a future-ready company. I appreciate what you said. Everything has a natural life cycle. Gift vouchers were there, paper vouchers. We all were familiar with them. Our generation of people, let's say born in the 1970s and 80s, are kind of familiar with gift vouchers. That moved to electronic management, which is gift cards. Gift cards have very quickly given space to e-gift cards, which are delivered to you on your mobile phone or an email ID through smartphones. Smartphone penetration, as we saw this morning, has gone up phenomenally, especially in emerging markets like India and China. If you look at Southeast Asia, the penetration of smartphones and the usage of smartphones is frighteningly large. If you look at some statistics that came my way the other day in a meeting with a customer, one of the largest e-commerce service provider sales consumer company in India, they said 65% of their transactions, actual financial purchase transactions, are taking place off the mobile. So we have reinvented ourselves constantly to meet the changing needs of the marketplace using smart technology. Very interestingly, ours is merely an access mechanism to that bank account there in the sky. Like Quicksilver provides you with an account management software sitting out there in the cloud. Now, these various methods of access, such as physical plastic gift card or paper voucher or electronic gift card, SMS-based transaction, near-field communication, which is quite a big thing nowadays. You know, like, for example, even in this hotel, when you enter your room, you don't need to, you know, insert the card. You just have to touch it onto a surface, that kind of thing. But now our technology can be accessed in multifarious ways. So we are actually future ready. We are already evaluating and piloting, in fact, in one instance. There is a customer who specifically asked us for near-field communications. Interestingly, that's a space which is close to all of us in the entertainment space. It's something that we are piloting at this moment in time. Okay. So we believe that whatever the future is, our technology will necessarily be able to adapt to it. Because at the end of the day, it's about being human and serving human beings.
Okay. Alex, would it be an exaggeration to say that traditional advertising, traditional marketing ways are dead? And if you were to sort of give us a vision of what seems to be the advertisement of the future, and I use the word advertisement in sort of a loose way rather than the image of a newspaper or a video, what do you see that ad telling people in the case of a retail company?
Wow, it's a fantastic question. Caught me a little bit. I don't think traditional advertising is dead. I think what we're going through, and what we constantly have gone through, it's not that it's new, it's how do you find the right balance of using all the vehicles that you can possibly use. I think when we're in the lounge, we talked about, for me, one of the most frustrating things that I see when we deal with a number of clients is, you know, you hear the term, I want a 360-degree marketing program.
Right.
So, and I hear that all the time, right? So you ask the question, well, what exactly is that? What exactly do you want? Well, you know, I've got to have a bit of this, and I've got to have a bit of that, and I've got to have a bit of this, and I've got to have a bit of that, and by the way, can I have a Facebook page? Okay. What do you want to say? I don't know, but I need to have a Facebook page. Okay, where's the content? You generate the content. So I think, to answer your question, traditional advertising has a role. The new age advertising has a role. The future, is the storytelling. And the storytelling is where the real creative edge comes. Because the way I tell a story to someone of my age, to where I tell a story of someone in my son's age, the language I use is different, the tonality I use is different, the expectation I have in terms of a response is different. So the master narrative, the storytelling, becomes critical, because then that drives the type of message that you use depending on which of those vehicles in that famous 360-degree wheel you use. One of the other things is we keep saying about traditional advertising, but it's about media first. Again, one of the frustrations that I have is we look at clients who will have made the ad before they've ever decided which media to use. Yeah? So that's why when you drive along Sheikh Zayed Road and you see a billboard with tons and tons of writing on it, you've got to ask yourself, who is going to stop on Sheikh Zayed Road when they're going 140 kilometers an hour to read that? So it needs a headline, right? Because someone has thought of the campaign before they've ever thought about the media. So that has never changed, by the way. So media comes first, then it's the storytelling, then it's the adaptation to whatever vehicle you need to use.
I think that's a very interesting way to sum it up, but let me just throw open the discussion to the audience. Any questions here? Okay, let me ask you for concluding remarks. The future that SAP sees in the MENA region and the way you see it play out, let's say over the next 5 years, what kind of a transformation do you see?
I see traditionally a lot of retailers, and that's true for this region as well, have been building up IT systems in a very best of breed type of fashion, simply because there was no alternative. And I think what we'll see in the next couple of years is that we as retailers will start to realize that those type of architectures don't work in the new reality of customer-centric real-time retailing. Yeah. And this is where we are, and this is undoubtedly where the customers are forcing us to go. And what I think is going to happen over the next 5 years, and what we already see happening, is that we are working very closely with some of our customers, both in the MENA region as well as outside in the rest of the world, to help these customers transition into, and that might be starting on an e-commerce way, starting at a planning way, starting at a point of sale. It could be any different piece of that puzzle, but at the end of the day, the whole has to work seamlessly as a single system in order for us to be able to get that real-time interaction happening. Okay. And the roadmap to that is what I think is going to dominate the next 5 years for our business. Okay,
in the next 5 years, Shankar Balan, what would be the rate of growth that you think gift cards could take?
I can answer this again in two parts. In the Indian region, specifically the South Asian region, I would say that there will be a consumer tipping point which is not very far away. It's largely at this point in time led by the corporates, because by reaching out to a corporate, you tend to reach out to a larger mass of consumers. So it's all about reaching that consumer tipping point very quickly. I think we will see a no less than a 30 to 40% increase in the current rates, which means that every retailer who has taken on this interesting new opportunity will see no less than 10% of his or her top line coming from a prepaid paradigm. The MENA region, specifically to the UAE, because when we looked at the numbers a little earlier, you saw that the potential for business is huge. If adopted correctly by a sufficiently large number of retailers in relevant spaces, in, let's say, high consumer engagement spaces such as food and beverage, quick service restaurants, fashion and lifestyle, etc., entertainment specifically, you'll see no less than a similar rate of growth. Again, with Vision 2020 coming in to the MENA region, it may be as high as 50%.
Okay. Zafar, do you see a large number of companies, brands actually falling off the social media radar because they may actually find that it doesn't necessarily always work for them?
On the contrary, I feel the social media will empower the marketing managers and CMOs to have a better seat at the decision-making table. In 5 years' time, marketing managers will play a much bigger role in their organizations, hopefully empowered by all these insights and technologies that are brought to them by social media and the likes. So I feel it's going to be an empowering tool. The traction is already there. It's just a matter of how fast these brands can actually adapt. We've seen social media in Arab countries, change governments and topple presidents. But yet, we at the marketing industry are still hesitant to spend a bit here and a bit there, So I think it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. It's already been proven.
True. And Facebook is also out with Shopify, which allows people to quickly get onto their platform and start selling. Facebook's learned the way to earn themselves from e-commerce online. Okay, Tej, closing comments about convergence of some of these things that we've all talked about, web, store, personalization, gift cards, all of that coming together and actually being indispensable. You can't play one piece without the other.
True, very, very well said. Actually, all of them come in together to contribute to just one simple thing: revenues, cold hard cash. And this is what it's all about. It depends on how you club all these different channels. You've got e-commerce, you've your web-based, your walk-ins, your marketing, all these factors, customer service, quality, prepaid gift cards. Put all that together, you need all of them to come into one physical space or a space and time scenario where it works in to generate cold hard cash. Dynamics differ from place to place and what kind of platform you're using, but eventually this is what it's all about. It's about generating your top lines, getting more efficient bottom lines, and it works out for everybody. Your customer's happy, you're smiling all the way to the bank, and you've got a good brand name. So.
Okay. Alex, final question. I'll keep it short, and I'd like you to give us a very crisp one at this. Will content drive commerce in the future?
Yes.
Okay, I'll give you another sentence.
No, I think the answer I gave before was about the storytelling, and storytelling is the content. So you got a bit of the aspiration and you got a bit of the function. The question is what mix, but some of the questions you asked the other panelists about where you think some of the key trends and things to watch out for. I've lived in this country for 24 years. One of the things that I see is that constant, and I know there's a lot of mall operators in the room, there's a lot of demand for rent and everything else, but the future is that the hottest brands are going to start online. And when that hot brand starts online and has a massive follower, the day that they come to you to say, we need space in your mall because we now need a showroom, right? They're going to be dictating what rent they pay because you need them in your mall. So I think that's one trend that's definitely going to come. We see it now in Europe, we see it in the US, where the really hot brands are starting online, create massive communities of followers, and some of them have now branched out and opened their own stores. And I think you'll see a lot more of that because we're all more connected. The youth of today are very entrepreneurial. They can get to their followers very cheaply with all the technology that's available and all the social media that's available, and they know how to use it and use it with very minor budgets. So I think that's a trend that definitely will come.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. I think it's been a very insightful conversation. I've certainly had a good time. You have a question. Okay, we'll take one question then.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Joel. I'm part of the larger Al-Hokair group for Sparky's Fun World. Now, allow me to poke a hole into an otherwise solid argument for e-commerce that the marketing leaders of SOPA put forth. And just like the accountants would argue for the top lines and bottom lines,
Sorry,
we are
can you
looking
stand
at...
a bit more close to the microphone? It's hard to hear you on this side.
I can carry it as well. Is that better?
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, fine. Like the accountants would argue for the bottom lines and the top lines, a conservative operational head, especially from an FEC industry, where I come from, would argue with the marketing leaders that you are, who solidly argue for e-commerce, that what parameters or what measures would you put in place to have damage control, which is very, very highly likely, looking at a growing consumer base that is, like he puts it, internet native. Chances are likely that they will capture a video of a nasty moment in your store and send it to the internet immediately. Now, the same way you benefit from an internet-savvy consumer base is the same way you can suffer from an internet-savvy base. What damage control measures do you put in place?
Right. You want to start, Zafar?
That's a great question. 5 years ago when we started, the first question every CMO would ask, why would I want to join Facebook and launch a fan page? People are going to start shouting at me and complaining. And we've had the pleasure of serving 7 GSM operators. Now, GSM operators are not quite liked around the world. People don't usually like their banks. They don't usually like their GSM operators. And you'd be surprised if this is what we call the sentiment ratio. We measure the amount of mentions on the web of a certain brand, and we categorize them into positive mentions and negative mentions. So the sentiment ratio, let's say your brand has 2,000 mentions a day and you have an 80% positive sentiment ratio, which means your brand is very healthy and people are mentioning it positively. Brands who do not engage on social networks usually have very, very low sentiment ratios. Their negative sentiment ratio is really high. The reason is an angry customer is 10 times more likely to complain than a happy customer sharing his happy experience. So what we need to do as brands today is to make sure that we actually amplify those happy comments and positive comments online and in communities to sort of balance off this unfair advantage an angry customer has. So you can see it clearly. Any brand that is proactively engaging, proactively publishing positive content, talking to their influencers, empowering their influencers, is much more likely to have a positive sentiment ratio and a healthy brand. Brands that shy away and stay away from social networks are usually the ones that have a very low positive sentiment ratio.
Sure. Good. Did you want to add something, Alex? Did I see you nodding there?
Yeah, I mean, I recently, I'm not going to use the name of the company, but there's a franchise food chain that was getting hammered in social media, and they grew their business through social media, and the negative comments, the way they addressed them was sensational. Yeah? The CEO got up and said, "You're absolutely correct, we forgot about the food." Yeah, they're a food company, right? But he took what potentially is a very negative, very harming environment and completely turned it around, because what he basically said is, "You're our customer, we've heard you, we're now making the changes we need to make." Right? And he could have spent millions trying to defend that in traditional media. It was one sentence on his Facebook page.
Right.
So you can manage it, but it means sometimes being true and saying, you know what, that customer actually, what he's told me is valuable to me and he's correct. And this is what we're doing about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. If one takeaway from our experience is that the best way to stop a social media crisis is just to acknowledge it as soon as you could.
Yeah.
If someone complains, you can reduce the risk of it turning into an epidemic just by saying, "We hear you, we're sorry, we'll get back to you soon." Even if you don't get back soon, but just replying the first reply, we call it the time to first reply, is essential in sort of containing any social media crisis.
True. Okay, gentlemen, we're running out of time, so we have to stay on schedule, which means we're going to call it a close. Thank you so much. It's been a very fascinating discussion, even as it came towards the end of the day, but I must say it leaves us with some great thoughts. Thank you very much. Good to have all of you here on the stage. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.